All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of From Sacko to Shiva on 816 Podcasting featuring Chase and Tom. Today we're going to be covering a couple of topics that everybody wants to hear about. We're going to be doing news and notes from the league. And we had our first annual 816 Podcast Listeners League, so we're going to review that. And then finally, we're going to give you some tips for winning your league. So let's get right into it.
Well, for starters, we got no Zeke news, no definite news, but it looks like he's going to play the entire season from what everybody's hearing.
Yeah, and I've been on board. I've said 2 games all year long, but now I'm starting to think he plays the whole season.
And if you were one of those people that drafted him any spot past spot 3 in the draft, whether it was spot 4 in the first round, spot 5, I don't care. You got one of the best values in the draft.
Yeah, it's huge value,
especially if it fell second or third round.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, it could be a league-winning move on your part.
I know. I was bidding high on him in our listener league, and I was upset that I didn't get him. That he went out of my price range on what I valued him at. Because I was like, if I could get him anything less than Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson, I was like, okay, I just got to steal.
Yeah, he would have been a steal if you can get to him. But our listener league went a little crazy.
Oh my god, being a 2 QB league or a QB in Superflex, it was definitely interesting.
So the next news item that we have is Vance McDonald getting traded to Pittsburgh.
I actually like that a lot because Jesse James is not that catching tight end. Like he doesn't have those hands. Where Vance McDonald, if I told you there was a tight end in the league that ran a 4.52 40, how believable is that?
Yeah, he's an athlete. There's no question about that. And I think that's the one thing that Pittsburgh lacks at that position.
Where they're have talent at every other position. They have athletic people at every position. Even Big Ben, with as ridiculously sized as he is an athlete. That guy will run, and that's probably why he's so injury prone. But I think they're just trying to map that whole offense to all be pure athletes.
Yeah, so if you look at it this way, you get the number 1 guy in Antonio, you get the number 2 guy on Martavius, you get a linebacker or safety on Le'Veon Bell. That leaves Vance McDonald with a linebacker, with a seam, and that if he gets 80 catches, I mean that's huge for a tight end.
Now, here's one thing that I love that shows you how confident Pittsburgh is in Vance McDonald. They gave a 4th round pick for him, and what's crazy is San Francisco was high on him too because they gave him a good contract. They didn't just beat around the bush when it came to his contract. They gave him something that was worthwhile, and then here Pittsburgh comes in, we'll give you a 4th round pick, and that's a great pick to have. I think they're really high on him.
Yeah, I agree. But, here's the next part of that is who's going to catch all the balls in San Francisco?
Pierre Garçon, because they cut Jeremy Curley.
Pierre Garçon's the only guy there, and they have a rookie tight end and George Kittle, and then they have, I think, Grant Selleck is their other option at tight end.
Who was that fullback that went to San Fran from Baltimore? Juszczyk or something? Did he make the team?
He's on the team currently, yeah.
That guy is a great pass-catching back, and I actually think that you're going to see a lot more of him being featured than Carlos Hyde, because everybody thinks it's a clear-cut Carlos Hyde, every down back type thing. I think by week 3 or 4, you're going to see a lot of Kyle Juszczyk, or however you say his name, featured in that offense, because that guy, if you saw him in preseason, he was catching that ball at the backfield, and that's his specialty, is catching the ball, and he was making people miss like he was Danny Woodhead.
Yeah, he's another one of those fullbacks that catches everything thrown his way. The only other guy that I could think of is Matt Breida. He's now the number 2 guy in San Francisco, so if anything happens to Hyde, Breid's going to take over. And
that also puts another markup for Kyle Juszczyk.
All right, on to the next one. So we got a little bit of news on Andrew Luck. He's definitely going to be out week 1, but he's not on the PUP list.
Now, this is something I brought up to you the other day, and I understand your argument on why, the Colts trading for Jacoby Brissett, trading Philip Dorsett, trading a first-round pick for Jacoby Brissett. That, to a lot of people, that doesn't, raise any red flags, but to me it does, because I'm not saying Jacoby Brissett's going to be the week 1 starter. Obviously, it's Tolzien, and that's completely fine, but what worries me is that they're looking in the future and seeing that Luck may not be out just 1 week. He may be out multiple weeks, and that they don't want Tolzien as a starter for more than 1 week.
Well, I think Tolzien is lacking in the athletic department, where I think he's just a stopgap until Luck can take over. And Brissett, to me, is just a third quarterback.
I think before Luck comes back, I think Jacoby Brissett becomes the starter before Luck comes back.
Well,
I know that's a hot take, but
he's definitely the athlete of that quarterback grouping, so it's possible.
He wasn't. What's crazy is if the Colts were smart, I was pretty sure Brissett wasn't even going to make the roster.
I think that's true.
I think he was on the way out because of how much time they had him playing in the 4th preseason game. And I was like, man, they were already like. I think Brady doesn't play. I think he retires after this year or next year. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo becomes their starter. And I think that's why they have been so high on not trading him or so tight on him. And I think that's why they got rid of Jacoby Brissett. They're like, okay, well, we can get Philip Dorsett for somebody we were going to cut anyways. Dorsett's not a difference maker. If people were going to ask, should we pick him up and start him? The answer is no. Like, if your question has something to do with Dorsett, no. That's my response.
Yeah, I agree with Dorsett. I think he's just a special teams or, a fill-in when needed, but he's not a starter on that offense.
But for all we know, I mean, Belichick has been known to bring in people from Walmart to start catch passes type thing.
Well, and that's one of the great things about Belichick. He's not afraid to make these gambles on these players that have high draft status.
What kills me with the Pats front office, though, with that is somehow they always win the trade. Like, they are the king of trades. And it kills me. I always hate that Cleveland trades with them so often. It's like, really? Like, did you not see what happened the last 6 times you traded with him? I think their closest possible win could be the Jamie Collins, but that's still a question mark. That guy doesn't seem very motivated to be in the offense anymore.
Yeah, Belichick is a genius. The evil genius, mad scientist, whatever you want to call him. He's one of the tops in the NFL.
Undoubtedly.
So we got a little bit of news on Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, he's going to be missing week 1 for sure.
At least week 1 was seen riding a bike during the last preseason game.
Everybody's been talking back and forth whether it's going to be worth or there should be any worries about Odell Beckham being out fantasy-wise. And everybody had came to consensus that there's nothing you should worry about. I have always had that red flag because they never said whether it was a high or low ankle sprain. Anytime there's an ankle injury at all, that really always kind of puts me on tilt whether I should look at that player because those injuries, those linger. It's just like a soft tissue injury. Like they're going to stick around, and until they're fully healthy, if they come back early, again, they're going to be out week after week, and every week they're going to have that question mark next to them. Like with LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo, like every time he gets hurt, you're always worried if he's coming back.
Yeah, high or low ankle sprain, it's got to be pretty bad if he's going to miss the first week.
Yes.
So Tyrod Taylor also got cleared today to start practicing, so I believe that means he's going to be fine for week 1.
Yeah, he's cleared concussion protocol, and he will be hopefully the week 1 starter. But I'm still not drafting him. I'm still not starting him. And that offense, man, I'm so against that offense right now. I'm even against Shady.
Wow, that's crazy. I like it. I think what he does well is that the short to intermediate passes, and that's what Zay Jones does well, and that's what
Jordan
Matthews does well, and then you got the little dump offs out of the backfield.
Yeah,
I like it.
We'll see. I need to see it this time to believe it. I've seen that offense before, but I feel like they went into full rebuild mode. They're trying to pull off a 76ers move and trust the process.
Trust the process. My next question is, we had a suspension that came down in New Orleans with Willie Snead.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere really quick. Nobody was even talking about it, and then boom, his DUI thing hit, and they gave him a 3-game suspension.
So who do you think gets the uptick in targets for the first couple weeks?
I've already heard reports and all that, and as you were talking earlier, but Colby Fleener.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's Fleener.
Because Michael Thomas can't increase the targets any more than he already has because Brandon Cooks is already gone. Those targets that Willie Snead is going to have has to be divvied up out of those first 3 weeks, and you're probably only looking at, in those first 3 weeks, maybe a combined 20 targets in the first 3 weeks, which isn't much, but if you give a tight end 20 more targets, especially with Colby Fleener, who's very talented, and Drew Brees, who has been known to make tight ends look good. I have him in one league. I drafted him, I think, the second to last round, and it was just one of those things that everybody hated on it, but I was like, you know what, people some people drafted 3 tight ends, and I'm fine having a stacked team at other positions to pick up Colby Fleener.
Yep, and I think it's Fleener too. But the one dark horse that I'm going to say is Alvin Kamara.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, he's the running back, but he catches the ball really, really well. So you split him out, let him catch some balls, let him run.
Everybody seems to forget, though, Mark Ingram is a great ball catcher, or a great pass catcher. Like, the guy he's good.
Yeah.
So how come, I understand Alvin Kamara, came in, but Mark Ingram's a former Heisman Trophy winner. Aside from last year, I mean, the year before, he had 1,300 rushing yards. Like, the guy was just an animal.
I think Sean Payton doesn't like him, so he keeps his...
Yeah, they butt heads. I don't get it.
It keeps his volume and everything down to keep him fresh or whatever. I don't know what the deal is there, but it seems like he's always in the doghouse for something.
Man, I don't understand that. If you have talent, use it. There's no point in stockpiling it, especially when you're not making the playoffs and you're not doing anything. Use that talent.
Yeah, I agree. So the final quick note was Jonathan Williams was cut by Buffalo and then re-signed the Broncos practice squad.
Now that's interesting because as you brought up to me before the show in our little buzz session, we were talking about that, and he got paid $510,000 is what you were telling me to be on a practice squad. Which, as you were saying, that's probably gonna put him on the 53-man roster. But how soon?
Well, $510,000 is I think about $50,000 over the league minimum, and usually those players are on the 53-man roster as soon as possible.
At least as a special teams contributor. At least,
but I think he's way better than a special teams guy.
Oh, I completely agree with that because look what he's done behind LaShawn McCoy. Like that guy, I was going to handcuff if I had Shady in any of my leagues. I was going to handcuff him with Jonathan Williams because that guy, if Shady goes down, he's clear cut number 1, going to be the starter. The thing that worries me is they have a very crowded backfield right now in Denver.
Yeah. C.J. Anderson, Jamal Charles,
Carlos Henderson,
Devontae Booker, and then Jonathan Williams. But I think Jonathan Williams' talent will rise up, and at very least, I think he'll be the number 2 behind C.J.
Yeah.
That's it for the news and notes. So the next thing that we have coming up is we're going to review.
I actually have something before we get into the review of our auction league for the listener league. I kind of wanted to ask you, was there any surprises throughout the 53-man roster cuts that you saw of people who either made it or didn't make it?
Off the top of my head, I could think Chris Carson.
Yeah.
Making the team.
That surprised you?
Well, it's only because they have so much depth there already, and they paid Eddie Lacy a lot of money. And they already have C.J. Prosise, and they already have Thomas Rawls, so now he's in a fourth.
All 3 of those guys you just mentioned are all injury prone.
Yeah, it's good to have that insurance, but he's still going to be the 4th guy there.
I don't think he's the 4th guy for long.
Well, he was fantastic in the preseason. He ran hard, caught the ball well.
He was explosive, had great lateral movement. I mean, the guy, in one of my leagues, I actually picked him up, but then I dropped him because I saw Rex Burkhead was on the waivers. I was like, okay, I'll just do an ad drop for Burkhead because I see Burkhead having a more immediate impact, and I was already pretty deep at running backs anyways. Now, there was a surprise that I had actually with the Seahawks that I was surprised somebody was cut, but Boykin, their QB, that guy was doing good. I didn't understand, have him as your QB too.
Well, they cut him, but then they re-signed him to the practice squad, which yeah, that's an move. Not really much of anything there. And Jonathan Williams, he was a surprise to me. I would have swore he was going to stay with Buffalo his entire career.
That was a surprise cut for everybody. I think my news feed blew up on that on other experts and news reporters just taking that as a hot take, didn't know what was going on.
All right, so let's get into this auction league. Let me set it up real quick. So what we did was a 12-team PPR, point per reception, with a half a point per carry for everybody who rushes the ball. Passing touchdowns are worth 4, all others are worth 6, and we added in a super flex. So what a super flex is your flex position can be either a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end. Now, rather than doing a snake draft, we did an auction. So all 12 of us got in a room together, and we're going to bid on each player individually.
A very small room.
Very small and hot.
I don't think it was that hot. Like, there it was on, but it was all right.
So let's review just teams really quick, and we'll talk about them and what we like about each one and what we don't like.
So for starters, we have Ben Sanderson, who joined the league with us for our first annual Sacko to Shiva 816 podcasting league. His QBs right now are Matt Ryan, and I think that's all he has, right? It's Matt Ryan, yeah.
David Carr.
Oh, and Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. I said David.
So, how much did he spend on his QBs? Because being this a Superflex league and all that, with two positions or two possible QB starters, on Matt Ryan he spent $32, who I was actually bidding on, because what was crazy about this league is the market for QB just went through the roof way too quickly, and you had players going like Aaron Rodgers went for $56, which just blew me away. But things like that set the pace for the whole league.
Yeah, the sheets that I use, my cheat sheet had Aaron Rodgers going for $28, but as soon as he went for $56, that set the market, and everybody paid up to get quarterbacks.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And then for Derek Carr, he spent $10, which was a great value.
That's solid.
But I was actually bidding on Derek Carr, but $10 was my limit as well. He just got to that number before me because Derek Carr has the worst strength of schedule for a QB.
I do love his Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh my God! So I nominated Odell Beckham Jr. first. I was the first nomination. I nominated him just because there's question marks around his injury, but I was like, if I could get him for the right price. But I was really gun shy, and so was everybody else. How much did he go for?
He went for $35 out of a $200 auction money.
That's crazy because other wide receivers went for a lot more. More. What Ben Sanderson have to say about his team?
So this was Ben's first time doing an auction, and his strategy was he was just going to wing it and bid on players that he liked.
Well,
he said his best picks were Odell Beckham Jr., which we agree, and Carr, which we agree, and then he felt that he overpaid for Terrell Pryor.
Which he only paid $15 for Terrell Pryor, which was probably the right market for him. But he got him later in the draft, where he probably could have got him for a little bit cheaper. But I mean, as soon as he nominated him for $15, and nobody questioned it.
Yeah, that's one of those things where timing is everything in an auction.
Now, what's the pick on his team that you're just not a fan of? Whether because of how much he paid for him, or just because of situation.
I want to say it's Lamar Miller, but he's upticking. So I'm going to go with Kelsey just because we're in the 816 area code, so everybody's going to go high if they're in Kansas City. And he ended up paying for
$21 for Travis Kelce.
$21 for Kelsey, which is solid. I mean, that's right in his range, but I just have a hard time paying that much money for a tight end.
It makes it hard for me because Reed went for 15, but then Gronk went for 30. It kind of just, and then Olsen went for 17. Like, somebody got a good value on Reed, but those other top four tight ends, just big question mark.
Yeah, I think so. But how about you? What do you think he did? Did well? Didn't do well?
I'm not a big fan of the Lamar Miller pick because I'm not a big fan of Lamar Miller at all. Even though he averaged 4 yards per carry last year, the guy just doesn't look good. Deontay Foreman there, that I'm just kind of staying away from that whole backfield in Houston.
Okay. The only thing that I would say,
kind of like there's water back there.
The only thing I could say about Lamar Miller is for the first couple weeks, he's going to get a whole ton of carries and looks in the offense.
Yeah.
But that's all I got. How about the next team?
All right, we got David Ridge Yates. Again, new listener since we just started the podcast. He paid a lot for Aaron Rodgers, and I just could not get behind that. I know it's a QB in Superflex, and I know QBs have a premium on them, but Aaron Rodgers for $56? Ooh, man, that's steep.
It's a lot of money to pay for a quarterback, but and that set the market. So everything else after that, it was still high for me. But I mean, that's the crazy thing about auction. You go and get your guys.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not about what experts say. It's about what guys you want on your team.
Yep, I agree. So it was also his first time doing an auction, so we're thankful he was there, and hopefully he does many, many more.
I think one of my favorite picks, though, for his team was Tyler Eifert, because I was targeting him, and he got him for $11, and he was actually the only person that could outbid me at that point in the draft.
Well, that could be your trade partner.
It'll be all right. He has 3 tight ends, though. That's one thing that worries me about him. Because he has Tyler Eifert, Kyle Rudolph, and who was the and Colby Fleener.
He didn't leave much, but he said he was trying to use a value sheet, but that got blown up right away with all the high bids on the quarterbacks.
Yeah, unless you know what type of league you're in and know your room, auction leagues are way different than any other type of league you can think of.
So the weird thing about being in an auction is it's always moving. So for you bidding on running backs or tight ends, that means you got to pay less somewhere else because you're using your money. So it's very important to have a budget and stick to that budget while you're doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes it kind of burns you because it kind of burned me a little bit, but it's just one of those things. You got to know your draft script. You got to know the script of what's going on. And I mean, again, it changes so drastically, and it can all happen with one player. You can pay for one player. You can underpay for others. I mean, again, you got to know your bargains, and you got to know when to get out. Don't upbid somebody if you're not willing to pay that price if they don't bid back.
Yep.
So next we have Jacob Castillo. What's some of the picks that you liked on his team?
Well, I mean, Melvin Gordon, Tom Brady, Cam Newton was one. I was high on Cam Newton in this league.
Yeah, but Cam Newton went for $32. I was high on him too, and again, the market got set high, and it's just one of those things that was a little steep for my pockets because I'm looking to. I'd rather find value at quarterback even in a 2 QB league or QB in Superflex league and stack my team elsewhere.
That's kind of how I feel too, but the bonus points that he's going to get out of Cam Newton's rushing attempts, I think it'll make his team stronger.
Yeah, but he spent, if you look at it this way, he spent $71 on 2 QBs.
Yeah, that's a huge amount.
So you just allotted a lot of your budget to 2 QBs, and that's ridiculous. I'm not too high on his wide receivers. I think maybe his best value and best boom bust potential is probably Allen Robinson.
Yeah, well, he's going to get the targets, and for the price that he got him, I think it was 16, 15, somewhere in that area. That's pretty solid.
He also got Crowder for $8, which wasn't bad at all.
No, but who do you start on his team? Do you go Brandon Cooks, Crowder, Watkins, Allen Robinson, Kenny Britt, Jordan Matthews?
I don't feel comfortable with. The only person I'm going to start for sure is probably Brandon Cooks and maybe Crowder. The other ones are, man, that's a big toss up between the other ones. I kind of had that cringe on my face every time.
So his strategy was to get the best value for his money. And, once you spend that much money on your quarterbacks, it's hard to get value everywhere else.
I mean, if you think about how much he spent on his quarterbacks, his team's probably as best as it could have been in that situation. There's not very many other people. He's very shallow at running backs. Jamal Williams is the only person that may be able to find great value at if Ty Montgomery does not satisfy McCarthy.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, Darren Sproles for $1 is, a safety net. He's going to get some looks in that pass offense.
So next we have Jacob Castillo's brother, Jason Castillo.
Yeah, so, Jason's always a solid. He's a really good player. I played with him in a lot of leagues. So right now his 2 starting quarterbacks are, 3 of them. He's got Tyrod, Big Ben, and Matthew Stafford, which,
he said he was looking to trade Matt Stafford.
Well, in a super flex league, all those quarterbacks have value.
And that's actually probably one of my favorite picks that he has on his team with Stafford because I think he only spent $9 on him.
Yeah, that's a good value. He does probably have the best wide receiver core in the league.
Oh, yeah. He has a phenomenal wide receiver core. He has Amari Cooper, Jordy Nelson, Dez Bryant, and then you go down and he has Demaryius Thomas on his bench, and it's just like, wow, that's pretty steep. And then he picked up Kevin White, which, I'm staying away from the slow white bear.
Yeah. But and that also left him a little bit weak in the running back area.
Yeah, his running backs, his two starters right now are Mark Ingram and Frank Gore. And keep in mind, this is a half point per carry. So Frank Gore's value is probably a little bit more up there, and he got a bargain on Frank Gore. Gore, I don't exactly remember what he spent on him, but I mean it was decent. I actually think he got him cheaper than $8?
$8.
Oh wow, he got him cheaper than Doug Martin for $13.
Yeah, and Doug Martin's going to miss the first 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So he wanted to spend most of his money in the wide receiver position, and I think that's what he did.
No, he did, but like what he had talked about with his strategy was to use his wide receiver depth as trades for down the line. I'm not a big fan of that type of strategy because you got to find somebody that will work with you, and if you price your wide receivers too high, it's one of those things, supply and demand. If you have a huge supply, my demand's not going to be that high. I'm not going to pay you for something that you have a extra supply of because I'm not going to pay top market for something that obviously you have a plethora of and you're not even going to use half of them.
Yeah, you got to find a willing trade partner, and sometimes that's hard to do. But he felt that his best value was Demaryius Thomas for $16.
That's probably one of his best values. How much did he spend on Amari Cooper? Because that was probably one of my favorite picks on his team. 32.
32.
I don't know. I was pretty high on Amari Cooper, and I think he spent right where he should have. And it's just one of those things you can't really bid higher on that because that's probably the right dollar amount. But I think his best value was Frank Gore for $8. That's a steal.
Yeah, you're getting a workhorse running back, and he's going to be in there for almost every down.
The only thing that worries me about Frank Gore is with how shaky this offense is. Maybe you see a little bit more Marlon Mack until Andrew Luck comes back, and then you see Frank Gore come right back in.
Well, Mack definitely has the burst that Gore used to have.
Yeah, he's definitely younger and hungrier.
And Jason felt that he overpaid a little bit for Big Ben at $18.
Yeah, I was upbidding him on that one because I wanted Big Ben, and it wasn't that I was like intentionally trying to like screw him over or anything. It's just like Big Ben was one of my targets, but I just couldn't spend any more on him, so he got him right there for 18.
Yeah, I mean that's that weird thing where the market got set, and if you wanted a solid quarterback, people were going to bid that guy up, and that's where you got caught there. Now,
Jacob Crunk, he set the market for running backs really quick with David Johnson. When David Johnson got bid, he spent $72 for him.
Yeah, and before the draft, he said David Johnson was one of his targets, so he went and got him.
Yeah, he also was in a bidding war when Le'Veon Bell got nominated too. He bid $70 on Bell because he was trying to lock up Bell and Johnson, which I'm not opposed to that strategy. I probably would have done it at 60 and 60, but 70 where you spent I'd spend 120 on both of them, but I don't think I'd spend 140 combined. But then you got Bell for 71 because you were the only person that was willing to not let him control that market.
Yeah, so it's one of the strategies when you look at these things. When I look at it as these two players, they're the top guys at that position. So if one person gets both of them, they almost certainly are going to lock up, in this league, probably 60 points right off the bat. 60 to 70 points.
Every week.
And that's huge in this type of deal. So I thought that somebody had to put a stop to it, and that's why I went and got Le'Veon Bell for 71 total.
Now, what's one of your favorite values that he had on his team?
I think it was Hooper. I mean, I really like Hooper coming out of Atlanta, the tight end.
I think he overpaid for him. Didn't he pay like $4 or $5 for him?
He paid $3.
$3?
But it was late in the draft, so it was probably close to his last $3.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite picks, but I mean, he paid probably the right price for him, was Michael Thomas. I think he overpaid for Martavis Bryant a little bit. He's paid $12, but it's just one of those things that, I mean, Michael Thomas is the offense right now for New Orleans, where Martavis Bryant, I mean, he's definitely probably, third man down on that offense?
Yeah, I think it is. And the weird thing about that situation is you don't know. You don't know yet how it's going to turn out because, you're waiting for the guys to return that are injured.
All right, so next we have up Cleo Jones.
Cleo Jones.
Now, he finished his roster and still had, $30 left in his budget, which I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I did leave $10 left in mine, but he was one of the two other people that could outbid me on players. And my favorite pick that he got was late in the draft, Michael Crabtree.
Yeah, that's that solid wide receiver that we're all looking at. So Cleo was doing his draft by phone, or not by phone, but on his phone. And I think he lost track of how much money he had left.
Yeah.
So Kareem Hunt looks solid. Drew Brees looks good. DeShone Kizer, I thought, was a huge, huge overbid.
$18 was it for DeShone Kizer? Him and Crunk were in a bidding war for him, and it's because they both liked their O-line, which I understand that, but man, that's for a second QB. I don't care what league you're in. Like DeShone Kizer's a free agent pickup.
Kizer went for 17, but that's still a lot of money.
Man.
But he looks solid, right? He's got Jarvis Landry, Tyreek Hill, and one of our favorites, Cooper Kupp, as his wide receiver.
He nominated Cooper Kupp for $1. I was like, man, he had to be the guy that nominated him for $1 because I would have nominated him myself, but I was going to nominate him for $1.
Well, on his team, though, I see a lot of depth at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Brandon Marshall, Michael Crabtree, Eric Decker, Landry, Tyreek, and Cooper Kupp.
But aside from Kareem Hunt, though, he has Jonathan Stewart, LeGarrette Blount, and Thomas Rawls. Thomas Rawls may be the best value on that.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
All right. Next we have Ian, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
All right, so what did Ian have to say about his team?
So this was Ian's first auction, I believe, but he's done other drafts with us before. Mm-hmm. So one of his strategies was don't make huge mistakes. And the very first line says, Aaron Rodgers, $57, mistake.
But Aaron Rodgers went for 56?
Yeah. So
he was saying he should have bid 57?
Yeah, I think he's saying he should have went with 57.
Oh, okay. Because how much did he spend for Rivers? I know he spent a lot did he spend a lot on Rivers?
19.
Yeah, I know the market was high, but I'm just looking at like Derek Carr going for 10. I was like, that's Cousins going for 9, Dalton going for 12. I would rather have any one of those over Rivers for 19. No offense, but it's just, I guess you got to know who you want to target.
Yeah, and that's the next. So Ian had 4 or 5 targets, and he hit on 3 of them, which was pretty interesting. He was going after Mariota, McCaffrey, and Murray.
And he got Murray, McCaffrey. Did he get Mariota? Yeah, he got Mariota too.
He got all 3.
And he got Mariota for 27, which it's not a bad value for this type of league. Half point per carry, super flex league. I mean, it's not bad. Jameis Winston went for 30. Kind of gives you an idea. There was a big drop off in QBs after Winston and Mariota. They went down to Prescott to 22, and then after that, all of them went 18 or less.
Yeah, there was definitely some tiers where people weren't paying attention to that stuff. So his best pick that he thought was going after his defense.
If that's how you feel about your team, again, no offense, I would not feel good about my team at all.
Well, I mean, it's pretty solid with Rivers, Murray, McCaffrey, AJ Green.
But if you feel your best picks, your defense, what defense did he have?
Denver.
How much did he spend on Denver?
Oh, boy.
5?
I think 5, if I remember correctly.
I wouldn't agree with that. He also spent $9 on Darren McFadden. That was a rough one.
Yeah, that was his other mistake. So, just for our listeners that don't do auctions too much, usually, you only want to spend $1 on your defense and $1 on your kicker. Unless there's an exception and you really, really, really like them, then you go $2, maybe $3. But to spend anything more than that is usually wasting your money.
Yeah. I think his best value is probably McCaffrey, actually, $26.
It's solid.
That's not bad, considering I spent 32 on Fournette. But again, being half point per carry, and I think they're going to give him the ball three times, or 3 times every first down, just repeat, rinse and repeat.
So he felt that his best values on his team were the quarterbacks, which I mean, with Rivers and Mariota, I can't really disagree there.
I just think he paid. If he would have paid 10 for Rivers, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with that. But, I mean, Mariota, I think, was a steal.
Yeah, I like Mariota. Especially if you get that half a point per carry.
Yeah.
He felt he had decent running backs, but his wide receivers were pretty weak.
Yeah, he's looking. I don't know. He has AJ Green. You have a top tier wide receiver. I was like, I think he has his wide receivers, running backs. I think are probably some of the strongest. I mean, Murray and McCaffrey as starters. AJ Green, Corey Coleman, Adam Thielen. Those are great PPR targets for Corey Coleman and Adam Thielen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's as bad as he thinks it is.
But if he doesn't like it, I'll offer him a trade. Larry Fitz for McCaffrey.
Yeah, and there's always that possibility of making trades. So just to break this up real quick, and we'll finish up the review of the teams. What's your favorite fast food place to eat?
I don't know. I'm not a big fast food fan, but I eat fast food a lot just because I'm always busy. Favorite fast food, probably Chick-fil-A.
My weakness is Taco Bell.
Oh, Taco Bell. Oh,
I love it. I don't know what it is about Taco Bell. Give me those
shredded chicken quesarito every time I go there.
That's not bad.
Man, that thing's good.
That's not bad.
It's a spot. I get two of them.
I get I think it's the number 12 where you get the 3 Doritos Locos tacos.
Yeah.
That's my weakness right there.
Okay. I like it. Well, man, that's a rough one. What's your favorite actual sit down restaurant to go to? Or yeah.
I mean, there's so many good ones out there right now. Garozzo's for Italian food, Jack Stack for barbecue. What's the steakhouse down on the plaza? Oh my god!
Fogo de Chao. That's a Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh my god, I can't think of it, and I'm gonna get yelled at when I get home. It's the one with the 2 lions out front. Nope, on the other side, right by the movie theater. I don't know. Oh my god, I'm gonna get yelled at so bad when I get home. Anyway, it's a steak place down on the plaza. Yeah, she does.
Oh, she listens?
Yeah.
Does she really?
Yeah. I don't know if she listens in depthly, but yeah, she listens.
That's awesome.
Oh my god,
What's
I know
the
I'm
name
gonna
again,
get.
Danielle?
Yeah, I'm gonna be in so
Hi,
much
Danielle.
trouble. So much trouble.
This is gonna be great. Can't wait to hear about that.
What about you? Where's your favorite sit down? Have a good meal.
If it's Italian, I like Buca di Beppo down on the plaza.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a big fan of Gojo's Japanese restaurant. It's tempeh grill. It's just good food. And then if I'm going for sushi, I'm going Nara downtown.
Yeah, Nara's good. I'm not a fan of sushi though, but they have some good fried stuff that I like to eat.
Sushi's good.
I can't do it. I don't
know how nobody can do it. It's great, man.
All right. Let's get back to it. I'm sure that the name will come to me of my restaurant.
As you're Googling it.
Yeah, I got to Google it because I know I'm going to get yelled at. I know it. Capitol Grill.
Oh, okay. I've never had that.
Capitol Grill. We went there for Restaurant Week this year, and it was so good that we decided we were going to go back. That's how good it was.
I went to McCormick and Schmick's one time, and God, that was one of the best steaks I've ever had in my life.
It's good stuff.
Man, it was pricey too. I went for my 2 friends. It was they're twins, and it was their 21st birthday, and their dad. I mean, they're kind of a rich family, right? I didn't grow up rich, man. I grew up in trailer parks and stuff like that. Well, this guy, their dad trains people to fly B-2 bombers. Vastly intelligent man, super nice and all that, as humble as you can imagine. We go there and all that, and I'm ordering chicken Alfredo or something when I get there, right? And he's sitting down right next to me, and we have 20 plus people there, of all of their friends. And he's like, Chase, you're a meat eater. Don't eat that stuff. I was like, there's chicken in it. It's good. He's like, I'm paying for it. I was like, I'm paying for my own food. It's okay. He's like, no, I'm paying for it. You're getting a steak. And I was like, no, it's good. So he orders me a ribeye. It was a $68 ribeye.
Oh my god.
But it was so good. It was a la carte. He's like, I'm gonna get you some potatoes and some asparagus too. And each side and all that was $12+, and the potatoes were loaded, so it was $18. And I was like, asparagus was $12, but it was all so good. And he ordered everybody creme brulees and all that stuff. And sitting right next to him, I couldn't imagine how much the bill was until I actually saw it. Because keep in mind, there was 20 of us there, and he paid for everybody $1,600.
That is a huge bill.
Oh my god! And he just and the tip, he tipped $400.
Nice and even.
The 2,000, it was the even. I think it was $1,600 to some change, and then he tipped or the final his final bill was $2,000. I was like, what? I just wanted to puke everything back up. Y'all can have it back.
Man, that's a hefty bill right there.
Yeah, super nice guy, man. I mean, these are great people, and I mean, as nice as you could, they would give you the shirt off their back.
Oh, that's good.
All right, so next we got Glenn Smith, a 816 podcasting host for Markout Wrestling. All right, now he and I went head to head a few times, just like me and a few other people, and he got the better of me, and I was a little upset about it. All right, so his team, he got Jameis Winston and Ezekiel Elliott and Antonio Brown are his probably top players on his team. Oh, he also got Jordan Reed for 15, which was probably his best value at any position. But he and I were going back and forth on Zeke. How much does Zeke go for?
57.
Yeah, man. I think I had him at 60, but I got gun shy, man. I don't know what happened, but I love the pick, especially if Zeke is not suspended. Zeke led the league in carries last year with 322.
That's
a lot of points.
Yeah, that's a lot of extra bonus points out of that.
That's what, 166 extra points?
Yeah.
Just on carries?
A lot of bonus points.
And then he kind of went value on his running backs after that, and he got Jeremy Hill, Latavius Murray. I understand that's not going to be much. He also picked up Gio Bernard, which I think is a lot better than Jeremy Hill, especially with the way they're going with their offense. But I think picking up Paul Perkins, even though he didn't pass the eye test for anybody, I thought that was a great foresight. Because this is Glenn's first auction, and Glenn doesn't know a lot about fantasy football. He's been in one of my leagues I've been running for a few years, and he's been learning more and more, and he's getting more in depth and more excited about it each year. And it's just great to see him do good.
Yeah, your first time doing an auction, it's such a hard thing to do because everything's moving and people are bidding, and it doesn't give you any time to look at your team and to try and figure out what you want to do. You pay $57 for Zeke. Do I pay more for Antonio Brown? Do I pay less for Jordan Reed? Do I go after a Kansas City defense? What do I do here? So it leaves you with a lot of moving parts, basically.
Yeah. But how much did he pay for Antonio Brown?
57 also.
He paid $57 for Antonio Brown, but let me put this in perspective. He also has T.Y. Hilton on his team. This is probably one of the best values of the whole entire draft, especially if Andrew Luck comes back. $16. How did any of us let him get away with that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things where everybody was afraid of Andrew Luck news, but that's huge value for his team.
He's still the number one receiver on that team.
Yeah.
Look at it this way. Who would you rather have, Demaryius Thomas or T.Y. Hilton?
Man, that's tough. I mean, everybody would say T.Y. Hilton, but you're kind of afraid of the Andrew Luck situation where that Simeon is going to look Demaryius Thomas ways, but T.Y. is a lot more explosive than Demaryius Thomas nowadays.
Yeah, and Demaryius Thomas is very touchdown dependent. I know he's 80 receptions for the last 3 years quietly, but the thing is T.Y. Hilton last year, what people tend to forget, is he led the league in receiving yards. Also, this guy on Matt Harmon's reception perception is in there broken tackles left and right, few drop passes, and I'm just saying, I don't think it's one of those things that Andrew Luck makes him a better player, so I'm not too worried about Matt Holzine throwing his way, but it was just one of those things, man, that was a great, great pick.
Yeah, I liked it too. I thought that was huge value for his team. It helped him out. But he's a little weak after that in the wide receiver spot.
Yeah, it kind of drops down. He has Antonio Brown and T.Y. Hilton, and if those are your first two, I'm not too stressed about what my third one is. He picked up Kenny Stills, which is a good boom-bust candidate for, if you're deciding who for your third wide receiver is, that's not bad. And he also has Corey Davis, and if Corey Davis comes back from his injury and looks good, I was like, if he looks like what he did at Western Michigan, I was like, that's another sneaky pick.
Yeah, he did well for his first time.
All right, now moving on, we got your youth, Nathan.
More than one people have said he had a really strong draft, and the more I look at his team,
he had the best one.
Yeah, and the more I look at it, he's pretty solid, surprisingly. I mean, it's his first draft. He was a late-minute addition. He doesn't really watch football too much, but he did pretty well drafting.
Oh, my. He killed it. He snuck Doug Baldwin from me for $24, and again, I got gun-shy a lot, and that's one of the things I probably would change, is I probably would have spent a little bit more. But I value my team pretty well, but he got Doug Baldwin for $24. He also has Julio Jones on his team, who he spent $50 for. I'm just saying, that's $7 cheaper than Brown. You got two of the top 20 wide receivers. I mean, actually two of the top 10 if you want to be technical, because Doug Baldwin was a top 10 wide receiver last year, and the year before that. So I'm just saying, you have two wide receiver ones on your team for, $74?
Yeah.
That's not bad. And then his team still gets better from there, because he picked up Dalvin Cook for a decent price. He has Golden Tate as your wide receiver 3. I mean, man, it's hard to beat that.
Yeah, I really liked what he did. His only weak spot, though, is going to be the two quarterback spots. And in a super flex league, that's where you're gonna live and die.
Yeah, I kind of snuck Bradford from him when he posted him up. I was like, no, I was already targeting him. I was like, no, I was like $2, and he was just like, damn it, because I think he only had $1 at that time.
Yeah, he was down to $1. We talked about it, but still, he got Andrew Luck for a bargain at $8. You know, Jared Goff he got for cheap, and then Tom Savage I know he got for $1, which. I mean, he's going to go Goff and Savage for the first couple weeks till Andrew Luck gets back, and then he gets a boost.
I actually think Goff's a sneaky pick for the first couple weeks. They have a very easy slate those first couple weeks.
Yeah, and you know the crazy thing is I actually think his depth is pretty good.
Yeah,
Dalvin Cook, Bilal Powell, Tevin Coleman, Joe Mixon, Julio Baldwin, Golden Tate, Tyler Boyd. You never know with him. Greg Olsen at tight end and Seattle defense. I mean, that's pretty solid, especially
not bad at all.
Especially for the first one that he's ever done.
Not bad at all. It's pretty nice actually.
So the next one that we have is the one and only Chase.
Wow, there's no mimicking me. I mean, come on, I'm the greatest there ever has, ever will be.
So on this sheet here, it says you're targeting Winston for $12, Russell Wilson for $23, Breeze for $13, and Newton for $15. Did you get any of those targets?
No, and that's because the market, like again, we wrote these sheets out before the draft, right? And the market was crazy. And the closest I think I was to any of them was probably Big Ben. And
Big Ben.
I was just like, considering what all these other QBs went for, look at it this way. I have Andy Dalton, Carson Palmer, and Sam Bradford, and combined, I spent $16 on my QBs.
Yeah, and to me, I think that's how you build a team in this thing. You kind of got to get those guys that are going to contribute right away at quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I'm just saying they all have Sam Bradford's strength of schedule is the second easiest next to Drew Brees this year, and then Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton have a little bit tougher schedules. But it's just one of those things that I really wanted Cam Newton. I really wanted Russell Wilson. Those were my number two or top two targets, and I'm just like Russell Wilson, I was going at, and I got into a bidding war and I lost, and it was just one of those things. Somebody valued him more than I did, and it's not much I can do about it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about auction. Everybody has a chance at the guys they like.
Yeah.
So I see that at running back, you did get one of your targets.
Yeah, I got Todd Gurley. I probably overpaid for him a little bit, but if you look at what I had him in my tier 3 of running backs, just behind Jay Ajayi. And for me, Jay Ajayi went for $49, where Todd Gurley went for $37. And then Jordan Howard actually drops down to tier 4 for me because I moved Ezekiel Elliott into tier 3. Now, if you look at what Jordan Howard went for, you got Jordan Howard for $35 and Kareem Hunt for $32. So I think he went for the right price in that area because I have him 8th overall and then top of tier 3.
So do you think that your best value was and your worst overpay?
Worst overpay, probably Amir Abdullah. I kind of got priced in real quick, and it was just one of those things that at one point I was like, okay, I'll just bid it up, and I kind of got caught like holding the hot pan because Devontae Freeman was still on the board, and that guy snuck away from me, and he went for $34, and I spent $18 on Amir Abdullah. Yeah, keep on raising your hand, Tom. It's okay. That was a great steal, especially with having Le'Veon Bell on your team. But I'm still okay because I still got Leonard Fournette, especially with a half point per carry. I think Leonard Fournette can easily get 280 plus carries this year, and I got him for $32. So I was pretty happy with my running back situation, and I'm actually still really deep because I got C.J. Anderson for 7 or 9. I can't remember off the top of my head. 7, and then I think I'm kind of weak at wide receiver. I have Kelvin Benjamin, Devontae Parker, and John Brown, and Larry Fitz. I also have Marvin Jones and Rashard Matthews. The reason why I already had John Brown for $4, but Larry Fitz went for $7. I was like, man, I couldn't say no to that.
Yeah, I think Fitzgerald there was a beautiful pickup.
And I can easily trade one of the Arizona wide receivers.
I think Bradford was a huge steal. I really like his early season schedule. Same thing with Dalton. Everybody's on that Dalton kick where they think that he's going to do really, really well this year. But
it's like every other year with him, man. 2 years ago, last year wasn't so good, but 2 years ago was great. I'm just saying, maybe it's that time.
I actually like your tight end the best. I think
Gronk?
If he's healthy for 13, 14 games, I think that's going to be a difference maker.
I'm really high if Gronk's healthy because I spent $30 on him, and people looked at me like I was crazy. And you know what? Maybe I am, but if you look at it this way, when Gronk's healthy and playing games, he's a wide receiver 1. Yes, I know he's a tight end. I'm just comparing his stats to wide receivers. He is a bottom tier wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pass him up for $30 if you look at what some of these, and this is when I was bidding on him, I was actually looking at my wide receiver list, looking at what these other wide receivers went for. Jordy Nelson, 42, Des Bryant, 34, Amari Cooper, 32, Brandon Cooks, 26. Makes me feel really confident about spending $30 for Rob Gronkowski at that point.
He's definitely a difference maker if you're going to win tight end every week with him in there. So yeah, I like it. And now, your kicker. Tell me about your kicker.
Okay, I went with an interesting trick shot kicker who is actually the second most accurate kicker last year in NCAA, I believe. Now, this guy, Young Ho Koo, if you watch him on YouTube, the kid's phenomenal. It's funny to watch. He actually beat out Lambeau at in the Los Angeles Chargers offense or team. And I'm just saying, that team's going to score a lot of points. They're going to be in field goal range a lot. And the fact that you bring in this rookie, I think that says something about him. I was like, this kid's good, and it doesn't look like he stresses out. Like, if you can screw around and practice kicking the ball up between your legs to where it's up and spinning by itself and then kick a 35-yard field goal and make it, man, you got some talent. I thought it was fun. I nominated him for $2 because I was like, I'm getting him. And that was my last pick.
Yeah, he's a very interesting person. His YouTube videos are hilarious, and some of the trick shots he pulls off are amazing.
Yeah, and I love that he went from a YouTube sensation to a second most accurate kicker in NCAA last year to being in the NFL. And it's one of those things, I don't think he's going to be a Robert Aguayo type of kicker.
Oh, that would be a mistake if he is. I think he's better than Aguayo.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to move on to the man, Tom Karlak.
Well, I won't go that far, but I will tell you that...
Wait. People, you got to realize, this is a big man, okay? I weigh like 180 pounds, and like I'm decently in shape. This guy's like 2 of me and in shape.
No. Just 215. It's not that big.
You know what Heath Evans looks like? Look at that guy.
Nice. he is a beast, though. Have you ever seen him do the bench press?
Yeah. Did you see him do it on NFL Fantasy Live?
Yeah.
When he was doing it in a suit, and like it was during the combine and all that when they were like getting it all set up, and he was in a suit, and he at 245. I think he did like 23 reps in a suit, and I was just like, Jesus Christ.
No warm ups, just sit down on the bench in a suit and jacket and go. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was like, man, that's a different type of animal.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy. I love listening to him talk. So my strategy going into this was I wanted stud players, and I don't care if the bottom of my team is filled with dollar players because I think that I could still find guys that will contribute to my team at that point. One of my targets, though, was Kirk Cousins for under $10.
And what do you get him for?
$9. Man,
I was looking at him, but again, strength of schedule for Kirk Cousins, I think is, like 31st overall? Yeah, the second toughest. And I was just like, man, it kind of turned me off of him a little bit. Because he, like, in preseason, he looks like he's struggling without McVay.
Yeah, and I think that with Terrell Pryor and Dotson, those are some of his new toys to play with. I think once he figures out those toys, he'll be fine.
I think it's, when people lose weapons, he lost 2 of the weapons that he had rapport with. And now he has to rebuild all that again. And it's tough for anybody.
But like I said, for under $9, to me, that's a bargain.
Yeah, especially when he has those 400-yard plus games with 4 touchdowns.
Well, and I'll tell you the grouping that I had him with as far as numbers is I had him right with Ryan in Atlanta, Andrew Luck, Winston, and Wilson, and all of those except for Luck went in the 30s. So for me to get him at 9, I thought was huge.
I actually had him in my tier 3. I think that's probably where you had him. But I had Ryan and Winston in my tier 3. I actually had Wilson in tier 2 with Newton and Breeze with this type of league. I changed my tiers up for this specifically with the half point per carry. But Cousins, the only other, like Ryan 32, Winston 30, Big Ben I had for 18, and then Luck and Cousins went for 9.
Yeah, so I mean, we're all in that same type of area generally. So, and then one of my other targets I had at wide receiver was Keenan Allen for under 30, which in all my other auctions that I did, Keenan Allen went for at least 30. And if he's healthy, he's a point per reception monster in that offense.
And the guy's reception perception is just off the charts. On games he plays, he catches his 1.8% drop percentage. He's just through the roof. Contested targets is like a 26% catch rate, and then just targeted all the time. The guy's great. He went for $16. I was very upset about that because I got outbid. It's not that he had more money than me at that time. It's just I needed to allocate my money elsewhere, and I lost out on Keenan Allen. I was kind of upset about that because you also got Stephon Diggs for a very reasonable price too, 13.
Yeah, 13.
That's not bad. I was like, considering you spent 71 on Bell and you got Diggs and Allen for under 16 apiece.
Yeah, so and that's one of those weird things where timing in an auction can also help or hurt you, because I sat there with Le'Veon Bell taking $71 off my budget. So I just sat there and waited and hoped nobody nominated the guys that I was targeting. And it worked out in this league. In other leagues, it doesn't always work out. But
yeah, you and I were kind of doing the same thing there for a while. Because to give you all an idea of players that were left that went for probably way under what they were was, and this is probably around like 10 or later, but Hilton, Allen, Tate, Crabtree, Hopkins, Alshon Jeffrey. Like those players all went super late in the draft.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's where you're going to find your value when people only have a couple dollars to spend here, a few dollars to spend there. And my other quarterback that I went with was Dak Prescott, and I paid $22 for him. But
yeah, I was upbidding you on that one on purpose.
Well, of course, I mean that's going to happen. But for $22, I think I got an underrated running quarterback. So I think that I'm going to get maybe 4 extra bonus points out of him in a game, and if Zeke's out, that means they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I'm on record as saying Zeke misses 2 games. So at least the first 2 games, I think I'm getting some bonus stuff out of.
I think Prescott. Even if Zeke doesn't miss 2 games, I don't have Prescott that high. I have him pretty low on my rankings, and that's just because of the strength of schedule is terrible for him. And if you looked at the games where he had tough matchups last year, he performed terrible.
Yeah, but it's also his second time through the league, and you learn stuff, and hopefully he takes a step forward and, he helps out my team.
Yep. And then finally, we have one last podcast host from Mark Out Wrestling, Anthony Mayorino. Now, he and I went head-to-head probably more than I'd like to admit. One of them, I was probably upbidding him a little bit on LaShawn McCoy. That's just because I knew he wanted him. The other 2, I was kind of upset that I lost out on him, and it just got to a price that was too rich for my blood. And that was Russell Wilson and Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, he was a big fan of Russell Wilson. That's one of the guys he was targeting right from the get-go.
Yeah.
His strategy going into this was at a half point per carry, he wanted to go heavy running backs. And then the rest of it, he was just going to spread around as well as he could.
Which, I mean, if people don't understand how valuable half point per carry running backs is, and 2 years ago I was doing a 24-man league, and I actually came in second in the league, splitting the pot with one of our other friends, Becker, because I made a trade that people thought was crazy. I traded Julio Jones for Matt Forte straight up because I knew the playoff schedule for Julio, I knew the playoff schedule for Matt Forte, and I knew it was a half point per carry, and I knew those were so much more, that half point per carry in the playoffs was so much more valuable, so I got that trade done, got Matt Forte on my team, and my team was just a very well-balanced team all the way across the board. I had Chris Johnson. That's when he was starting for Arizona. And they were just, each 23 carries plus a game, and it won me. It won me into the finals.
Yeah, he's got 3 pretty good running backs there.
LaShawn McCoy, Carlos Hyde, Jay Ajayi.
Yep.
It's not bad. Not bad at all.
It's pretty good with Wilson and Jay Cutler or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
It's solid.
I'm actually pretty happy with his tight end, too. Hunter Henry for $6.
Yeah, that was a bargain.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And then he snuck Danny Woodhead. I think he might have overpaid a little bit for Danny Woodhead for my blood, I guess. I don't have that price actually written down.
$4.
Oh, no, he didn't. He got him for the steal. Never mind. It's great pick right there.
In a point per reception, he's going to catch balls, and every once in a while he's going to run with the ball.
Now, what did he get Emmanuel Sanders for? Because I think that's another cheap target.
He went cheap. $6 for Emmanuel Sanders.
And you got Jeremy Maclin for $4. I know he's not a big fan of his wide receivers, but he has Tyrell Williams, Jeremy Maclin, Emmanuel Sanders, and Willie Snead. And if you look at Allen Hurns, but if you look at all those receivers, I think he spent probably less than $20 on all those combined.
Yeah, that's what his plan was all along. He didn't want to go to top end guys in the wide receiver area. He wanted to focus on running backs.
Yeah, and he got him. He spent quite a bit of money on Jay Ajayi and LaShawn McCoy. He spent $45 on McCoy, and I was actually targeting Jay Ajayi too, and that's where he and I were butting heads. Keep in mind, LaShawn McCoy went for $45. He and I got into a bidding war, and Jay Ajayi went to him for $49.
Yeah, he's a pretty solid team. The wide receivers are boom and bust kind of guys, but they're all PPR. Emmanuel Sanders had almost the same numbers as Demaryius Thomas last year. People forget about that.
Yeah, and gets those targets, man.
Yeah, and to get him that cheap is huge.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, that kind of wraps up our draft, actually, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the end of the draft stuff.
Yeah, not too bad.
It was fun. Had a lot of good laughs. A lot of
pizza. A few people drank some beer. Tom and I really don't drink, so yeah.
So let me ask you this: what are your 5 tips for winning a league?
All right. Everybody likes to think that your draft is won and lost, or your league is won and lost at the draft. That is not true, because I know people who have killed the draft. But if you're not active in your league and you don't know your starting sits, I think your starting sits is going to be your number one problem when it comes to winning and losing your league. If you don't know who to start and sit, it's going to put you in a corner that you don't know. You're just going to don't know who to start, and you're just going to wind up losing that week based off of poor matchups.
And when I look at my team, I always want to start my studs. So the guys that I drafted in the top 3 rounds, I'm thinking those are my studs. Those are going to be my base. The decisions for me come down to that next group of guys. So my wide receiver 2, my wide receiver 3, my backup running backs, maybe if I have an extra tight end or a defensive matchup. Those are the guys that I'm looking to switch out on matchups.
And keep in mind, this is one of the main reasons why you should listen to this show throughout the season is start and sits. We're going to be talking about that a lot more coming up because this week. It's the first week of football, thank God. I mean, we've all been waiting for this moment. So, I mean, obviously, this is coming up week and all that. Thursday, I'm starting Rob Gronkowski no matter what. I'm starting Tom Brady no matter what if I have him. Kareem Hunt, depending on how deep I am at running back, I'm probably still starting him.
Kelsey, still starting Kelsey.
Hill, I don't know. It depends on my depth again at that. Depends on who I have ahead of him.
Well, with New England, they're going to take away the number one option that they deem the number one option.
Travis Kelce.
So then that flips it to Hill or Hunt. I mean, you never know.
Because you got to look at Kelsey's always the number one option on that team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he is the number one option all the time, every week, all the time.
That's because he's a freak, man.
So what's number 2?
Number 2, I don't know. What you got for Tom?
Number 2 is know your league. So if you got somebody that you want to make a trade with, go out there and make offers. Don't just be content with the team you got because you could always improve your team.
I apologize too. I feel like that at number 2 we should actually have staying active in your league. I dropped the ball on this. I lost the paper, guys. I apologize.
That's right. I mean, it's still in the same area of stuff. I mean, you always want to do ad drops to make your team better. You always want to make trades and make your team better. Stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't win your league if you're not being active. So you gotta be in there every week doing your studying and all that. And you don't got to spend a lot of time, an hour here or there, throughout the week. That can take you a long way. I mean, just asking friends for advice sometimes can help you. I've had plenty of people do that, and I turned somebody around one year that asked me for advice. I don't know if you remember Chad Smith from Harris.
Mm-hmm.
There was one year when it came to fantasy football, he asked me to help him because he was 0-4, and someone was trying to offer him a bad trade. I was like, no, don't do that trade. Counter offer this trade, and the trade got accepted and all this other stuff. And I was giving him start-sit advice. So he started off 0-4, and he finished, I think 8-4 or something like that. Like, I mean, he finished off strong. Like, he went on a winning streak. Like after that, and it was just like, man, that's good job, Chad. Like, it was just. And I think he didn't make the playoffs based off of tiebreakers or something like. But
be active.
Yeah.
Don't stop trying to improve your team.
Don't let your phone don't turn off the notifications. Get them. I mean, you get enough text messages every day. What's one more notification from fantasy football?
So number 3 is don't trade just to trade.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times early in the season, people are going to offer you junk deals and stuff that you don't really want to take or accept.
And don't trade a running car for parts. Don't trade Antonio Brown for, I mean, lack of a better term, but McCaffrey and Adam Thielen just because you need a running back. Like, I'm just saying, Antonio Brown is consistently going to get you more points than both of those players combined.
Yeah, and if we're going to make a deal, I always want to be on the side where I'm getting the best player.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like, yeah, don't make a trade to make a trade. But at the same time, sometimes if you're the guy wanting to trade, be persistent at it. Like, work your angles. Don't tell me why you need your player or why you need my player. Tell me why I need your player.
Be
and like,
the
that's
better.
my pitch. Like you got to be a salesman. Like, if I'm pitching to Tom, I'm gonna tell him why he needs my player. I don't want him to know I need his player. I want him to know he needs my player.
Yeah, be the better salesman is what it is. So number 4 for me is I'm always looking ahead. So I know who I'm going to start this week, but now I'm starting to look at next week and the week after and the week after. Do I got to make a waiver move to pick up a kicker? Is my defense playing somebody that I don't want them to start him against? My tight end, I might have to move him around to get somebody who I like better. I'm always looking ahead.
For me, even before I draft, I'm looking ahead. I'm looking at what's my strength of schedule. And the biggest part of the strength of schedule I always face or look at is my playoff schedule because I'm going to make the playoffs. That's I already tell myself in the head every year I'm making the playoffs. Last year aside, that was a weird year for me. First year I never made the playoffs. It was just weird. Like I lost due to tiebreakers in 2 leagues, and the other league my team was injury riddled the whole year from week 1, and it was just one of those things that I build my team based off playoff schedules, and I try and structure it for that. So that's where I'm going to be in the money at.
You're looking way, way ahead.
Hey, some people play checkers. I play chess.
That's true. So, and the final thing is have fun with this. I mean, it's all about, having fun and doing something that you like. And these guys, for most part, are on your team for the season, unless you trade them. But talk crap to your league mates and enjoy the guys that you have.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that if you're getting stressed out by doing fantasy football, maybe it's too much investment for you. Like not monetarily, but just sometimes people love just watching football. Other times, I love watching football, but this is a whole new level to me, and it brings so much more enjoyment and passion to me. Like, I care about watching every team play because I want to know how all these players. I don't care if this player's on my team or not. I want to know if they're doing good, doing bad. I love watching what's going on. It makes me more in depth on. Maybe my team should trade for this. And I'm not even talking about fantasy football team. I'm talking about maybe the Eagles should trade for this player, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just one of those things. I have so much fun doing it. And that's the whole reason why I do it. Because it's not about the money. I make enough money at my job. I don't need to make more money. It's nice. But I'm just saying, I have so much fun. Like Tom said, I talk shit to people. They talk shit back. Excuse my language. And it's just a fun experience for everybody. And nobody gets mad at each other because, again, the key word in this is fantasy. It's our getaway. It's our imaginary land of, we're our franchise owners of this team.
Yeah, and I love talking shit. I love it. I love it when people start it and I finish it and I kick the crap out of them that week. Ask Jason Castillo. I did it all year, last year to him. I think he beat me one time in 8 tries. And he heard about it for the entire season.
Yeah, it's always great talking shit on them about that and like just yeah. So I'd like to thank everybody for listening to week 4 of From Sacko to Shiva from A16 Podcasting with Tom and Chase. We thank you and would like to invite you all to come listen to Anthony and Glenn with Mark Out Wrestling on their podcast. Other than that, I think that's about all we have. I think we're probably going to talk about doing a earlier episode this coming up week for start and sits. Give you all a rough idea of what to expect with the season coming up since it's very start on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And if you all have any questions on who you all might want to hear about on start sits, maybe keep trade cuts, see somebody that's waiver wire gold, let us know and we can bring it up on the show. Feel free to follow us at A16 Podcasting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Please subscribe, share, and just show some support. We thank you guys, and come listen again.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Good luck in all your drafts, and hopefully you're in the playoffs in all your teams.